everybody, I'm DJ Sixsmith. You're watching The Sit Down. Super Size Me 2 coming out. Morgan Spurlock, Jonathan Buttram. How are you guys?
We're great. Thank you. Good
to meet you.
Thank you for having us.
So this was a pretty interesting journey for you guys here.
Yeah.
And for you, I mean, the whole fast food thing, this is a new twist on it, and a couple years of your life here. So how did this whole thing come about?
Well, you know, for years we talked about, could we ever make a sequel to Super Size Me? What would that be? There was some time like back in 2008, 2009, where I was thinking about trying to go in and unionize a McDonald's or unionize a fast food restaurant, which would have been awesome.
That would have been pretty epic.
Yeah, and then it just kind of got punted off by other projects. And so when I got the idea for this of like, you know, what if I opened my own fast food restaurant? What would that be? Then it was just like, the more I talked about it, the more we found people like Jonathan, the more we were like, this is going to be a great story.
So Jonathan, when did you first meet Morgan?
I guess about 3 years ago.
Yeah.
What did you think of him when you first met him?
Well, actually, when he come walking up to the chicken house, this guy in overalls and everything, and I thought he was a freeloader coming up to ask for some money or something. And I looked around him looking because they told me Morgan was coming. Then I looked, oh, it's Morgan. So yeah.
And we both had the very similar handsome mustaches.
Yeah.
At
Had the whole southern mustache thing.
And now we both got the
beards
beard
going.
grow out.
Yeah. You cleaned it up. I like it.
That's right.
We don't even coerce with each other on that.
That's right.
It just happens.
So it's one thing to want to start your own fast food place. It's another thing to start your own chicken farm. So
I know.
How do you take that to the next level? And Jonathan, how do you allow something like that to happen? How does it all go down?
Well, I mean, for us, it came out of a conversation we had with a company called CCD Innovation out of San Francisco, who, as we talked about, like, what's the story you tell with your food? And they were like, nobody's doing like a farm-to-table fast food, fast casual story. They're like, that's a great story for you to be able to tell. And I loved that. And so then we went on a journey to find our chicken farmer. Jonathan is somebody who's been incredibly outspoken and vocal about his disdain and unhappiness with the chicken industry for years. And so I was like, that's my guy. If he already doesn't like it, then that's my guy. And so once we spoke to him, he was on board. It was really exciting.
And speaking out against the chicken industry is not an easy thing, as we've come to find out. And you've really been blackballed by the industry. So how have you dealt with that, and why was it important for you to speak out?
Yeah, it's hard to find a crazy person to speak out against the monopolies. And believe me, I'm one of them. But it's been horrible. I didn't expect my whole family to get blackballed. My son should have been a fourth-generation chicken grower, and my daughter. They all put in for chicken houses. Well, they blackballed them, wouldn't let them have them. Son even had $5 million ready to belong to him to put in a very large chicken farm. And so they just couldn't get it, and it makes me mad.
Yeah.
And what they come and they threaten, well, back off or else. Well, I'm the wrong person to threaten, because I go get even harder and go after them even more, because, you know, I want the chickens to be healthy. I want the farmers to quit being mistreated, and so I say I'll change. When Morgan come up, hey, I can get my word out through him. He was just hunting a chicken farmer. He didn't know he was getting an activist.
Yeah, and you mentioned both those things. So the farmers aren't being treated right. The chickens certainly aren't being treated right, and you expose that in the film. So what was most surprising about this whole venture?
Well, for me, the biggest thing that was most surprising is how badly farmers get treated.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those things where you think that these guys who are company men, you know, they're getting treated great. You know, you think of company men, you think of the guys from IBM with their suits and their ties and their glasses, and they're excited to go to work every day.
It's a whole different type of company.
Very different company man when you get into the chicken business, because these are guys who they're indentured servants. Like, these guys are basically trapped inside of these companies with the debt that these companies throw on them, with the fear of never being able to get a contract again. So I was shocked at how kind of manipulated and owned these guys are by the chicken companies.
There's a scene where you get your check and it's $5,000 short of what you thought it was going to be. And then we watch also other farmers who are heartbroken, who are millions of dollars in debt. So what was it like for you to expose that and watch those other guys who you're in the same business with?
Yeah, you know, that check was unreal, because I knew those were some of the best chickens I ever grown in 40 years. And 56 million chickens I've grown. None of those chickens died. They were excellent chickens, and I knew that they put a screw into me then, and it makes me mad. That was $5,000, and we needed it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, somebody's got to stand up, and I'm standing up for the other farmers too.
Yeah, and I think this film really stands up for that too. And there's a lot of BS in this whole fast food world. So whether it's the labeling or the people involved or just the whole game, like, what to you is the most sickening about big chicken or just the fast food industry in general?
Well, for me, I think it's the collusion, which is a very popular word in our politics these days, but it's the collusion between the regulatory agencies and the corporations themselves. it is a revolving door of corruption, of people who worked for the big giant corporations who then go to work for regulatory agencies like the USDA, who are then working for them to change the regulations to make it even easier for these companies to get away with more, make more money. And then they go back into those corporations, start making huge sums of money again. So it just becomes this vicious cycle of people who we trust, we think are looking out for us, the government looking out for us, these corporations protecting us, and it's not true. Nothing's further from the truth.
When did you realize the corporations couldn't be trusted in your line of business?
Well, I filed a complaint with GIPSA several years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago.
Explain what GIPSA is.
Yeah.
GIPSA is USDA. And so when they took my complaint in, they tore it up and threw it in the trash. I didn't even find it out till just lately when an investigator come to my house a few months ago and told me my life was in danger for speaking out.
Wow.
So, I mean, yeah, this is unbelievable.
This is real.
It's real.
This is real. This is real. So, I'm going around looking over my shoulder now, but not stopping. I'm going to keep on. Most people, they subdue by threatening them.
No, you kept going.
And I'm keeping on going for the animal's sake and for the human's sake.
You have a person from Tyson in there who is blurred out, voice is altered. How did you go about getting that person to speak, even with all those different protections there?
I mean, it took time. Like, we had a couple people who wanted to speak and then pulled out. And then this individual, once he said he was going to be there, we said, here's what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to portray you. Here's how we're going to make sure you can't be seen. Here's how we're going to make sure your voice can't be understood. And we showed him all that footage before we ever put it in the movie, just so he was 100% confident that nobody would ever be able to identify him. And luckily, just a guy with a hat like that is basically, every guy who shows up to your farm to inspect your chicken barns anyway. So it's one of those powerful moments of a movie because you really start to understand how corrupt those companies are. That his job was to go out and make sure a farmer like Jonathan stayed in debt, to make sure that a farmer like him couldn't get out of the contract, that a farmer like him would be scared of the company that he works for. And it's awful. I mean, it is one of the worst things that I think is happening in our country today, and something that no one knows about.
I mean, you kind of make light of it in the doc, but there's emails going on around you about what you're doing in terms of what's going down in the industry. Was there any concern for your work, for your livelihood, anything like that?
I know, when I see emails like that, I was like, sounds like we're doing something right.
Yeah, you definitely leaned into it, that's for sure.
Sounds like we're doing something good right now.
Yeah, you're making the powerful uncomfortable. That's usually a good sign.
And so for me, it's, listen, I love when you see a letter like that, then you know that people are scared, and you know that corporations are worried. And the only reason I found out about that letter was because one of the farmers that it got sent to called me and said, I'm about to lose my farm. I'm millions of dollars in debt. I've lost my chicken contracts. If you're looking for a farm, use mine, buy mine. And there wasn't just one farmer that did that. There were probably about 5 farmers that called us and tried to get us to come shoot it or buy their farms. And so this is it's a tragedy that is happening with the farmers in the United States. We are continuing to let them down from a governmental standpoint of saying we're going to support family farms. We're continuing to let them down just from, I think, an American standpoint. Like these guys are what the backbone of our food system is, and we're turning it all over. We're basically giving it up to these giant corporate monopolies that are just churning out McFood. Yeah.
I think one of the questions I had is I'm watching this, whether it's the chicken farm, it's the old Wendy's, like the doc itself, like how much money are you guys throwing into this whole thing just to make it happen? You don't have to give me a specific number, just some ballpark.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was hundreds of thousands of dollars, for the farm, hundreds of thousands of dollars for the restaurant. Same thing when we open up here in New York City, which that's going to be open for the next 12 days here in New York, where people can come down to 18 West 23rd Street and get a delicious grilled crispy chicken sandwich. For us, it's about putting out a message of change and empowerment that you as a consumer need to understand you have the ability to make a difference through the choices you make.
I gotcha. So when you saw Holy Chicken open up in Ohio, after all that, what were your thoughts in terms of people coming through and what Morgan had put together here?
Well, it sort of tricked me. He told me to come to Ohio and eat a chicken sandwich. I walked in, I said, oh, we got to wire you up before you come in. I said, okay. So I go in and I had a mural on the wall painted of me, and I'm like passed out. I mean,
I'm sure you've never seen that before.
And then kids are in there and they turn around, look, that's the farmer that's on the wall. I mean, it was amazing. It was humbling is what it was.
Yeah.
And I said, man, maybe my story will get out now.
Yeah.
I mean, people were pretty surprised at how transparent you guys were in terms of the all natural, what was on the bags, the cups. What was it like seeing people's reaction?
It was incredible because there's never been a restaurant that's been that honest with you, and so I think we live in a time where people are ready for that. People are ready for some real honest truth, even if it's wrapped inside of a delicious deep crisped chicken sandwich.
Right. Yeah. No question about it. And just getting real about the doc, like this was on the shelf for a couple of years.
Yeah.
It was something that people weren't sure it was going to come out, and you had your sexual misconduct that you spoke about, and you were transparent about it. But I'm sure you thought about this, and you thought if this doesn't come out, that would be a huge bummer.
Well,
so how did you deal with that?
Well, for me, that was the hard thing. Is for the last 2 years, while the movie's just been sitting on a shelf, all I did was like work it and trying to get the movie out. Like I owed it to Jonathan, I owed it to Zach, his son, his wife Connie, all the other farmers that are in that movie. Charles Morris, who he's the guy who talks about being $4.5 million in debt. Like I owed it to those guys to do everything I could to get this movie out, to where people could watch it, where people could hear it, where they could hear their story. And I'm grateful. Like I am, the number one word that comes out of everything that's happened in the last 2 years is gratitude. For me, I'm incredibly grateful to Jonathan and his family for sticking by the process and sticking by me and everything I was trying to do to get the film out. And I'm grateful for Goldwyn for actually putting the movie out. And I'm very grateful for the response it's gotten. So,
how many no's did you get before Goldwyn decided to say yes?
Lots.
Like in the 10s, 20s?
Oh, dozens of no's. Dozens of no's. But if you work in the entertainment business, you get used to the no's, and I got thick skin, so it wasn't so bad.
Yeah. So whether it's that chapter of your life, all this work, what do you think you've learned about yourself as a guy, as a filmmaker during these last couple of years?
And listen, I think the biggest thing that I learned, and the whole thing that led to this, was that I can be better. I can do better, and that's all I can strive for every day. Is what's the best version of me that I can put out every day? And I'm on day whatever it is, 640 something of being sober. I'm on day 640 something of being a better dad, a better partner, and that's all I can be every day.
Yeah. What has it been like having this friend in your life?
It's been great. He's a good guy. I mean, he's a really good guy. I mean, I'm amazed at how smart he is and how he's able to pull stuff like this off. But you said timing a while ago. It couldn't be at a better time. It needed to sit on the shelf, even for my cause. This has worked out fantastic with the litigations that's been filed for other farmers and stuff like that.
So how has your life changed since we've seen you in the film here?
Well, I've become broke. So, we lost
we
our
got that
living.
in common.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you guys are honest, but how are you surviving?
Well, I got a few head of cattle, but they're the bottom's dropped out of them. It's hard. We pick up odd jobs and stuff. My son sitting out there, Zach, he has a snow cone business, sold cars through the winter and stuff like that. We just pick up odd jobs. We'll do anything.
Right. You're willing to do the work, but you guys are scrapping together right now. I mean, both of you. You're rebuilding things too, so I'm sure you guys can understand where you're each other at.
Yeah, so great time for us to build something new together.
Yeah.
Great time for a new Holy Chicken adventure.
Why not, right?
Yeah.
So, looking back on Super Size Me, we were talking off camera about like the social media with Holy Chicken. Like, do you ever wonder what Super Size Me looks like in the social media world when you first did it?
I mean, it would be such a different film today. I mean, for a lot of reasons. Like, that film came out at like the tail end of kind of the independent film movement. There are so many people who do crazy eating stunt shows on YouTube and things like that today. Like, it would be a very different reception of a film like that today.
Yeah.
And it would probably just go boop.
Yeah,
it wouldn't have gotten the same response. I don't think it would have gotten the same wave that it got. But I mean, you got to think, when that film came out, there was no Facebook, there was no YouTube, there was no Twitter. Like, none of that existed. There was like Netflix. You still got DVDs in the mail.
Yeah.
Like, you still got those in the mail. It was a very different universe when it came to independent film, and so I think that the conversation that it started, the one that it was able to kind of ignite, the way that it's continued about food, about addiction, about what that can do to us moving forward. I just think it's been incredible.
Do you remember watching Super Size Me? What your
I
reaction
didn't
was?
even know more than Spurlock till he walked up
Until
to
you
my
met this
phone.
guy? So you never saw Super Size Me?
He still hasn't seen it. I don't think he's still seen it.
I think you got to check it out.
I don't think he's watched it. Yeah.
Oh, I've seen it since then.
Oh, now you've seen it. Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you think once you did see it?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah?
Yeah, oh, heck yeah.
It's not as good as the sequel, but it's all
Yeah,
right.
the sequel is the best.
Well, I think
better.
the first one, just no pun intended, just punches you right in the gut.
Yeah.
I mean, it really exposed a lot of different things. And then, like you said, we have much more information now, but that was really the first of its kind that was like, here's what's going on beneath the surface.
Yeah.
and this does the same sort of thing too.
Yeah, people my age didn't watch it. When we were going around, when we were filming, we go to restaurant and stuff, everybody young knew him. I was, how do they know him?
Well, we when I was growing up, we watched it in health class. Like, it was one of those things that got into schools, you know?
Right.
And I'm sure, when you're making it, you're just like, I want to put this out there. Never anticipated that'd be in schools or anything.
Listen,
that.
I was just happy that we made our money back. Yeah. That's all I was saying. Let's just make our money back.
Well, how much did you guys put into that back then?
We made that movie for, if we'd had to pay for everything, like the movie that got us into Sundance, we made for about 65 grand.
Okay.
But then before we put it into distribution, we put about another 300 to 400 grand into it, just for clearances and things like that.
That's what people don't understand, how much money and time goes into this stuff, and you don't even know if you're going to get it back.
That's right.
But at least with this, it's like you have a legitimate business opportunity.
That's right.
On top of all of it, which is a smart move by you guys.
Yeah, and listen, I'm a real believer in a world where businesses like Warby Parker, Tom's Shoes, where you can create a business that does good and does well simultaneously. And I think someplace like Holy Chicken, where you know what, it could actually make a difference, change a lot of farmers' lives, a lot of independent growers' lives, and then also give you exactly what you want, which is a delicious, crispy chicken sandwich.
Do you guys think that anything will ever change in the industry, or the collusion just continues, the money continues to pour in? Are there little changes being made? What do you guys think about that?
Go ahead.
Well, this could be a start if Congress will back up and come out here and try to stop these large corporations from taking over.
Yeah.
If they don't, then it's going to go totally corporate. There'll be no more farmers left. There'll be factory farms, no more farmers left. Your food won't be fit to eat. Your animals won't be fit to eat, and so that's where it's going if they don't stand up after this and take a stand. And I call for the farmers to stand up behind me too.
Yeah, I think the farmers will definitely need that support, and you give them a voice. Like they didn't have a voice. People in this part of the country don't understand what's going on in your part of the country. So I think it's awesome people will be able to see that. So whether people check this out, go to the restaurant, what's the big thought to have after watching this?
I mean, I think the biggest thought to have is like, well, what can I do? And I think that's, people always say, well, what can I do? And because we always think, oh, somebody else will fix this, somebody else will take care of it. And the fact is, you know what? We are that somebody. Somebody is us.
Yeah, you can't just sit around, right?
We're the ones that should be trying to fix it. And so you fix it by learning more about where your chicken actually comes from, where you're buying this from, who's growing it. Like now you think you're buying it from some independent chicken farm that's actually been bought by Tyson or Purdue or Cook Foods. They own all of these smaller manufacturers now. Can you go to a local chicken grower? Like, Jonathan can go down the street to a farmer and buy a chicken from him and cook at his house. I can go to the farmer's market right down from my house in Brooklyn, and the farmers come from upstate every weekend and sell chicken down there. So you need to try and find places where you have access to that, and if you don't, then just find out where the birds are actually coming from. Yeah. And then, what can you do? How do you become the squeaky wheel? Who do I call? Who do I write? What can I say? How can I educate my friend? How can I take this other person with me to have a different experience?
It's amazing how many misconceptions there are about food. We just assume things because people have told us this way for years, and then it's like actually you start to do the research and you're like, wow, there's a lot I didn't know. Even just like cage-free, what that actually means.
Yeah.
All natural. Like, these are things we just don't question because we implicitly trust people.
Like, oh, cage-free, that sounds great.
Right.
I'm glad
they're
they're
like,
not
cool,
in cages.
Awesome, my eggs are cage-free. Yeah, I'm gonna pay the extra couple bucks. And it's like,
Sweet.
wait, are the chickens actually outside? Are they getting light? It's like, maybe, probably not.
Yeah.
Like product of USA.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's a product of USA. More than likely, it's not. It's just been packaged in the USA.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
That's not. It's illegal.
There's a lot of crazy stuff going on. And you guys definitely expose a lot of it.
Thanks, man.
Morgan,
great to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you,
Jonathan,
sir.
thanks a lot. Check these guys out. Super Size Me 2, Holy Chicken. Check them out in New York as well. For the guys, I'm DJ. We'll see you next time here on The Sit Down.